We got a new Xbox dashboard, but there's a catch. Avoid this feature if you don't want to get banned. Xbox fans are finally getting this title. Let's discuss. What's up, guys, and welcome to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that is dedicated to all things Xbox. I'm back with another news update to make sure that you are Xbox ready. And as always, a couple things. It'd be really cool if you subscribe to the channel. I have links below the video if you want to buy any Xbox stuff, and I'd appreciate a follow on Instagram. We actually got some really exciting things to talk about, starting with the new Xbox dashboard. Yes, guys, it is finally here. I have been talking about this for a long time, made many videos about it, made a lot of videos on what I thought it should look like. The Xbox team has been working on this for quite a long time now, for over a year at this point. And they've been testing it in the insider rings for a long time as well. But as of July 26th, it is official, sort of. Team Xbox posted on the Xbox Wire detailing the new home experience. But if you don't have it on your Xbox just yet, do not panic. They said that it's going to take a couple of weeks to roll out to all Xbox consoles. This new dashboard is pretty much the same as what we've been seeing from the insider rings, from what they've been sharing over the past couple of months. You'll notice that they have like a sort of guide button at the top of the screen now. It has icons for your library, the Microsoft Store, Game Pass, your settings, kind of like a guide without having to press your Xbox guide button. You'll also notice that you can see a lot more of your background now. They still have the big tiles at the bottom, but the tiles on top are a little bit smaller and they're a little bit more packed in. The tile size changes as you highlight them in terms of the game tiles on top. They added in an option to change your background depending on what game tile you're hovering over. Overall, I think the design of at least this portion of the dashboard is great. It looks a lot cleaner, less cluttered, and again, you do see a lot more of your background, which I appreciate. I'm the type of guy that likes to look at my dynamic backgrounds. I think they're a really cool feature that Xbox has. But up until this point, they've been just completely covered with tiles. Yeah, the big tiles on the top of the dashboard, they still have ads, which is not ideal. In a perfect world, I would just get rid of the last two tiles that they have on this dashboard, but at least the ads are relevant to Xbox stuff. They have one for like the Pro controller, the Elite Series 2, and then they have a Game Pass ad in the example that they're giving us on the Xbox Wire. Whereas previously, I feel like they were just throwing out whatever they wanted. They were like, hey, you want to watch Shrek 2? I'm like, well, hey, you know, I love Shrek as much as the next guy. But why is this ad popping up right on my Xbox dashboard as soon as I open it? The general consensus, at least from what I've been seeing, is that the top portion of this dashboard we're cool with. The community seems pretty split though as you start to scroll down a little bit on the dashboard. Like with the old dashboard, as you scroll down, Xbox has a couple of different lists for you to go through. They have a section for like Game Pass, movies and entertainment, friends and community. And this is where people are not so happy about it. Again, the entertainment and movie section is just like a big ad. Once again, they're like, hey, you want to watch the new Fast and Furious movie on your Xbox? I'm like, I don't really, that's not what I came here for. I came here to play games, but I'm just gonna skip over that. But in the past, with the old dashboard, you were able to get rid of those lists. You were able to customize it a little bit more. You're like, you know what? I don't want like a Game Pass section as I scroll down on my dashboard. I don't want one for friends and community. I don't want one for entertainment and movies. Let me just get rid of all that. If you really wanted to, you can get rid of all of that stuff on the old dashboard and replace it with your own pinned groups. As you can see on my home dashboard, I only have a couple groups pinned to that front page. I have one for Diablo 4 to go with the theme. I have one for my games that are pinned in Quick Resume. And I have one for all of my streaming apps, so that way whenever I want to watch Netflix or Crunchyroll, I don't have to dig through it in my My Games and Apps section. And while you can still apparently pin your personal groups to the front page, you can no longer get rid of the other stuff, and that's where people are kind of getting upset. Again, on that old dashboard, you could have a mix of like, oh, I'll take these lists curated by Xbox, like I'm doing here, I'm putting the Game Pass tab back on. but I can also move it to the bottom so I don't have to like fight through it in order to get to my personalized pinned groups. Apparently this is feedback Xbox insiders have been giving Microsoft for a while throughout the testing process. They were like, please give us the ability to get rid of this other stuff like we could with the old dashboard. But I guess they weren't listening, or maybe they're gonna add that feature in down the line. But to be completely honest, guys, you know, upon further reflection, I realized that I don't really use the bottom half of the dashboard, especially as I've been splitting my time between playing on PC and playing on my Xbox console. So to me, this isn't really like a deal breaker, this is not gonna keep me up at night, but it does seem weird that Xbox took away the ability to kind of get rid of the stuff that you don't want and are just like, tough, you're gonna have to deal with it. But on the other end, I really don't know how you make a dashboard update that makes everyone happy. I think the only way that's ever going to happen is if you give Xbox players the ability to customize their own dashboard, kind of like you can with your PC. I don't know how feasible that is though, so I guess we're just going to have to wait until Xbox gives us the ability to get rid of their curated list, their curated groups, like we could with the old dashboard. Speaking of Xbox features that have been taken away from us, retail mode emulation is officially dead. Again. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, one of the cool things about modern Xbox consoles is the ability to run emulators off of them. You can literally play like old Super Nintendo games on your Xbox. My wife really wanted to play the old school Harry Potter game that came out on PlayStation, the one with like PlayStation Hagrid.
And I'm the gamekeeper, of course.
So on our Series S, I have an emulator on that we run through dev mode so she can play that. There used to be two ways that you were able to do that. One was the way I just mentioned. You paid the $20, you make your Xbox into a sort of dev kit, you boot up dev mode and you run emulators in that way. The other way was just straight up through retail mode, which is the mode your Xbox comes in out of the box. In retail mode, you were able to download emulators like RetroArch straight off the Microsoft Store and run them on your Xbox. But then Xbox was like, no, we're not trying to get sued by Nintendo, so no more retail mode emulation. You gotta do it through dev mode. If you do it through dev mode, hey, that's none of our business, but no more retail mode. But then these guys, Weapon Store popped up and they were like, listen, you can still run emulators off retail mode if you pay us $2 a month on our Patreon. And so all these articles were like, oh, retail mode emulation is back, but there was always a risk that Xbox would crack down on it again. And unfortunately, it looks like that's exactly what is happening. Because it looks like Team Xbox is handing out temporary bans, temporary suspensions to people who are running emulators in retail mode. This news comes from Hikikomori Media, who is a YouTuber who does a lot of emulation content. He took to Twitter and said, retail mode on Xbox is dead. 15-day suspensions handed out to users of retail emulators as a warning shot from Microsoft. Devs warning users to delete emulators. Retail mode team disbanding and shutting down the Patreon. This is all coming from a Discord that is dedicated to Xbox emulation. It's called the Xbox Emulation Hub. And on that Discord, they said, effective immediately, we are halting any and all retail mode emulation permanently. This channel will be deleted within the week, and this announcement will be moved to the server announcements channel for preservation purposes. A significant amount of users have been receiving 15-day suspensions as a warning shot from Xbox. We strongly recommend removing any and all emulator apps from your console in retail mode immediately. So yeah, guys, it looks like if you want to run emulators off of your Xbox, if you want to play like freaking Super Mario Brothers on your Xbox console, you gotta just do dev mode, man. Do not risk trying to run emulators in retail mode. Do not get banned, guys. I am begging you, it is not worth it. Setting your console into dev mode, it takes a little bit of time, but it was a lot easier than I expected it to be. I did a whole tutorial about it, and usually I suck at doing stuff like that. So if someone like me can put their Xbox into dev mode and play old school retro games on it, I'm sure you can too. You do have to pay $19 though, that is the catch. And yes, you gotta boot it up into a separate mode, you can't like go back and forth. But if you really are itching to run emulators off of your Xbox console, that is the only way. Dev mode. Don't do it in retail. Don't do it, please. I guess it was only a matter of time before like the return of retail mode emulation was just shut down. There was major news outlets like VGC covering this group's work to bring retail mode emulators back to Xbox consoles. There were YouTubers like me talking about those articles. So really, it was just a matter of time for someone who works at Xbox to see that stuff and be like, okay, yeah, we gotta shut this down. But while retail mode emulators might be dead on Xbox consoles, we are getting Venmo on Xbox. Microsoft is officially allowing Xbox players to pay for stuff using their Venmo account. Right, that's exactly what we needed. Another way for Microsoft, another way for Xbox to take our money. You can now use Venmo to pay for games, TV shows, movies, apps, and you can even use it to pay for your Game Pass subscription. This is apparently part of a broader partnership between Xbox and PayPal, which you've been able to use PayPal for a while on your Xbox. The scary thing about this, or kind of scary thing about this, is that Xbox supports PayPal Later, which is, you know, like a lot of these services out there, like Klarna, Uplift, Afterpay, where you can pay for things in installments. I'm like, oh crap, are people gonna start ruining their credit, getting derogatory marks on their credit because they forgot to pay off their purchase of Starfield or something crazy like that? In terms of more exciting things coming to our Xbox consoles, Final Fantasy XIV is finally going to be playable for us Xbox fans. Square Enix confirmed that Final Fantasy XIV is going to be on Xbox consoles in spring of 2024. And for those of you who don't know, Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO. The Xbox version of this game should be ready by the time they have their new expansion, so it could be the perfect time for you to jump in on this game. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time with this game. My friend Eldon was a huge fan of this back in the day. I was always kind of making fun of him though, because the characters in that game are just like, they're like so sexualized, man. Like all of the characters, like all the guys wear short shorts, all the girls wearing super short skirts. I'm like, why are you really playing this game, bro? No shame, no shame. But for everyone who plays this game, apparently it is a very solid MMO. It'll be a great addition to Xbox, especially as they try to expand their offerings. This will not only add another title for MMO fans on Xbox consoles, but also for JRPG enthusiasts. We know that Xbox has been trying to expand their catalog, and this goes a long way in doing that. Square Enix also said that they were going to try their best for future titles to make sure that they also come to Xbox. Because as we all know, Final Fantasy titles, it's been very up and down on whether or not they come to Xbox. Final Fantasy VII Remake, where is that? I don't know. 14, 15, and 16, not on Xbox. And personally, I'm afraid that if Final Fantasy XIV comes to Xbox and doesn't sell well, then Square's just gonna be like, well, that's Xbox for you, that's why we skipped the platform. But on the other end, it's like Xbox is stuck in a cycle with these Final Fantasy games. It's like, how can you blame the Xbox fan base if the game doesn't sell well, if Final Fantasy XIV doesn't sell well? It's like, this game is 10 years old at this point. Like, if you're a company and you want to grow your presence on a platform, you have to have a consistent release of content for it. You can't like release some games on it and then skip a few and then release another game and then be surprised when it doesn't sell well. So yeah, I don't really understand this whole argument of like, well, Xbox fans, they don't buy Final Fantasy games. It's like, well, we get them late. What do you expect? Maybe if Xbox fans got them on a consistent basis, there would be more fans of Final Fantasy on that platform. So yeah, we're getting Final Fantasy XIV. They may be hinting at bringing other titles that we've been waiting on, like Final Fantasy VII Remake and all those other games. The newest one, Final Fantasy XVI, probably gonna take a while because that's a newer release, and typically Sony, PlayStation, they have a year exclusivity on these games. But I'm gonna be completely honest, guys. I just beat Final Fantasy XVI, and I feel like we can wait. I feel like we can wait for it to come to Xbox. I'm not in any rush to get that game over on Xbox. I don't know why people are hyping that game up so much. Yes, there are some really cool parts. For those of you who don't know, the gimmick is that instead of summons, there are icons. And each icon has a human host, and that host can call upon them to use their powers or fully transform into that icon. And so yeah, there are like these really cool, almost like kaiju battles, but in between that, they bog it down with like the most boring stuff in video game history, man. The side quests are basically meaningless. I skipped the majority of them. It's like something really exciting will happen and they're like, hey, here's a quest. Go talk to these two people and then come talk to me. I'm like, seriously? And they have the most awkward, long cutscenes. It was the first game in a long time where when I could skip dialogue, I would just be like smashing that X button, trying to get to the next thing. So yeah, I beat it. There were some fun parts. There were some parts I thought were cool. Overall, I thought the story was pretty good. But take it from me, guys, you should be in no rush to get Final Fantasy XVI on your Xbox. We also got some interesting insight this past week on how Xbox is doing as just a company. What's the numbers like, baby? According to The Verge, Microsoft just posted the fourth and final quarter of its 2023 fiscal financial results. The software maker made $56.2 billion in revenue and a net income of $20.1 billion during quarter 4. Apparently Windows and PCs, they kind of suffered a little bit, but Xbox has improved a little bit. But Xbox hardware is down again, this time by 13%. Which that doesn't sound too crazy. I mean, we're already 3 years into the console's life cycle, but it is a little tricky when you compare it to PlayStation sales, which just crossed 40 million. Apparently, they're experiencing the opposite in terms of hardware over at Sony. They keep seeing a growth. And so inevitably that begs the question of like, okay, what does Xbox do now? Have they lost in terms of the straight up like console sales competition? And the answer is, at least for now, yes. Fact of the matter is that PlayStation 5s, they're selling like hotcakes, especially since they fixed this whole console shortage situation. They're able to get supply out there into the marketplace. For a while, Xbox and PlayStation consoles, they were a little bit neck and neck. Like PlayStation 5s had a slight lead of like a couple million. But since 2022, PlayStation 5 has just like completely ran away with that. And we can sit here and talk about all day, oh, what happened, like why aren't Xboxes selling at the same rate as PlayStation 5? But I think we all know the answer here. Critics of Xbox, fans of Xbox, we all know the answer. And it's the games, man. It's the first-party games. Now, that being said, where the money is in terms of these platforms, whether it be Xbox or PlayStation, are in the third-party titles. That's why Sony was freaking out at the prospect of losing Call of Duty. They're like, that's where we make most of our money. But when it comes to a consumer's decision to buy a video game console, I do feel that first-party stuff is a factor in that decision. Because the average person is like, okay, I'm probably going to play mostly third-party stuff on my console. But if I want to, I do want to have the ability to play some of these first-party games that are coming out, like Spider-Man, like God of War, all those other guys. Xbox has to give people a reason to buy their console, like they did back in the day. Oh, you don't want to miss out on Halo 3, so you gotta buy an Xbox, which was true. All of my friends were playing Halo 3, it was a must-have game back in the day, so I got an Xbox too. And right now, there's just no game on Xbox that is like a must-have for people. There are some really great first-party games on Xbox, a lot of games that I've really enjoyed this generation, but they still have some work to do. And guys, this process of turning around people's perspective on Xbox first party, it may take a while. A lot of people are looking to Starfield to be that system seller for Xbox. But in truth, it may be a longer process. It may take the whole generation to kind of turn that idea of Xbox around. But the fact of the matter is, like Jimmy Champagne used to say on my channel all the time, if you make great first-party games, people will show up for your product. And unfortunately, the first-party stuff for Xbox has been very up and down. Forza Horizon 5, great, but even that game has turned into, over the years, something that people really complain about. Halo Infinite, very up and down. I enjoyed it, but a lot of people seem to not really rock with it. Sure, we got Hi-Fi Rush this year, but we also got Redfall. All of 2022, there was pretty much nothing outside of like the official release of Grounded and Pentiment and some other smaller games. But the hope, at least for me, is that starting with Starfield, we get a consistent stream of good first-party games. And hopefully over time, that leads people to be like, okay, I don't want to miss out on another good Xbox first-party game. I should get an Xbox. There is the argument of like, oh, does Xbox even care about console sales because they're focusing on PC a little bit more, they're focusing on cloud a little bit more, like the overall Xbox ecosystem. But Xbox leadership in the past has said, oh, Xbox, our console growth is still very important to us. And the fact of the matter is, if they want to sell more consoles, they gotta be known as people that make must-have, you cannot miss first-party titles. Once we have that, the consoles will sell, the people will come back, and all will be right in the world. Anyways, guys, that's all the news I have for today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready, and we'll see you in the next video.